Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hi everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 16 years now, we've been asking the Frantrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. Well, tonight, Franchise Interviews is kicking off Cinco de Mayo. And according to the History Channel, Cinco de Mayo is a holiday that celebrates the date of the Mexican Army's May 5th, 1862 victory over France at the Battle of Puebla during the Franco-Mexican War. Cinco de Mayo is not Mexican Independence Day, a popular misconception. Instead, it commemorates a single battle. The battle lasted from daybreak to early evening, and when the French finally retreated, they had lost nearly 500 soldiers. Cinco de Mayo is widely interpreted as celebrating Mexican culture and heritage in the United States, particularly in areas with substantial Mexican-American populations. So we thought a great way to kick off Cinco de Mayo was to play our interviews with the Margaritas Mexican Restaurant franchise opportunity. And over the years, we had 2 opportunities to interview Margaritas Mexican Grill. So our first interview was with Bob Hofmeister, the president and COO of Margaritas. And then next, we're going to play a clip of our interview with John Pelletier, who is the founder and CEO of Margaritas. So according to the Margaritas website, for over 40 years, Margaritas has built a cult following by staying focused and not chasing trends. Margaritas brings the spirit of Mexico to the United States through their scratch-made Mexican food, warm hospitality, celebratory environment, and of course, their famous margaritas. So while their decor and technology have changed over the decades, the big idea has always been the same: to deliver great Mexican food, fun, and the world's best margarita. And that's coming right up on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the Frantrepreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you've ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. And as we were saying earlier, Don, we have a great show today because we're meeting with Bob Hofmeister, President and COO of Margaritas Mexican Restaurant. And Margaritas Mexican Restaurant has been tagged the home of the world's best margarita. And they have 19 locations throughout Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, and Connecticut. Hey, Bob, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Marty. How are you?
Oh, terrific, Bob. Thank you. Bob, joining us is my co-host, Don Johnson, and I know, Don, you wanted to say good morning to Bob.
Hi, Don.
Hey, Bob. Yeah, appreciate you coming on. Excited to hear all about margaritas and what's the secret to that excellent margarita.
I can't give you that.
The secret recipe, right? There you go. Bob, we always like to ask our guests where they're calling from this morning to get an idea what the weather is there today.
I'm in Portland, Maine, and it's actually beautiful here. It's sunny, not too cold. It's a beautiful day.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And what were you doing, Bob, before joining Margaritas Mexican Restaurants?
Well, I was the key role that I had beforehand was I was the head of development for Au Bon Pain, which is a bakery cafe. About 200 locations, internationally and domestically. And previous to that, I was the senior VP of Applebee's operations.
Oh, fantastic.
And out in Kansas City. And then I kind of grew up with Fridays. I spent the first 16 years of my career at Fridays, where I actually was later when the company did start franchising. I was in charge of that as well as company operations.
Wow, that's fantastic. So I'm sure you got some great experience from all those establishments.
Oh, I do. I was very fortunate to work for those companies. I learned a lot, and it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So this is really right up your alley.
Yeah.
You come to Margaritas, and look at all the food experience and franchising. Corporate experience on all levels probably you had. So it's probably a lot of fun for you.
Well, thank you. Honestly, it's the best job I've ever had. It's a pure joy.
To talk about, Bob, the history of when Margaritas started, when you started franchising.
The company has a long history. It was started by John Pelletier in 1986. First restaurant was Concord. So we have been at this for nearly a quarter of a century. The company grew very opportunistically through conversions, and the owner brothers, John and David Pelletier, they would open a restaurant. They would find an opportunity with typically another restaurant that had gone out of business, and they'd go in and convert it, which is really the model that we're promoting for our new franchisees. As conversions are so much more cost effective.
Right.
And so, our last restaurant we opened wasn't a conversion, which was a year and a half ago in Dover. We're opening up another one here in a couple of weeks in Lexington, Mass., and then 2 months from now, we're opening one in Bedford, Mass., and we may have 2 other openings this year as well, all company restaurants.
That's fantastic.
And
so go ahead.
Soon afterwards, Bob, the first few opened up, I guess it was pretty obvious that this was a real franchisable type business.
It really was. My predecessor, Sean Joyce, who was so instrumental in forming a strong company, basically retired a few years ago. And that's how I got this opportunity. And that's really when the company turned its attention to franchising. Margaritas could have been franchising literally 15 years ago with a strong model, a very profitable organization, high sales. It just didn't choose to do it. So John and David, when they hired me, of course, they recognized what my background was, and they were very interested in growing at a more rapid rate, a controlled more rapid rate. So that's how it came to be. We're really new into the franchising business. We've, put our model together last year and got all the legal stuff done and beefed the company infrastructure up. So I hired a director of training. We put a new head of franchise development in place. We hired an executive chef, Martha Leahy, who's just done wonders in improving the company's profitability. So we're really poised. I believe of all the companies that I have had the pleasure of working with, we are, in my opinion, the most ready to franchise of any of the others.
Interesting.
Yes, it is, yeah. And it's Mexican is one of those categories too, Bob. It's funny, in this part of Pennsylvania, the biggest complaint is that there are no really good quality Mexican restaurants around, I think that's a popular comment from a lot of people, So I'm looking forward to you guys eventually hitting Pennsylvania, because
I'm looking forward to being there.
Oh, absolutely. You're not that far off, It's just a couple states away,
Right.
You see how you guys are crawling down. It's so that's fantastic.
So, so for margaritas, what really separates? What is it? Is it the combination of price, of the quality of the food, how the store looks, the promotion? I mean, is it all that combined, Bob? What really stands out? You feel the most?
I'd be happy to speak to that. Our competitive advantages are a couple of main things. One is we have a 45% liquor, beer, and wine mix. Mm-hmm. 25% of our total sales are margaritas. When I first heard that, as a lot of people might, they go, "Oh my God, it's a saloon."
Yeah. Right.
But it's not. It is. The thing I like to say to people, if you close your eyes and imagine the Fridays 20 years ago, and the clientele that was in there. Mm-hmm. That's what our clientele looks like.
Wow.
Somewhat affluent, young,
right.
upwardly mobile, very dynamic place. So there's that. There's the energy. There's the great drinks, the great margaritas. Our food, has been pampered over the years. It's delicious. It's authentic. The restaurant themselves. Again, when somebody's never been in a Margaritas, and maybe neither one of you gentlemen have been, mm-hmm. and you close your eyes and you picture a Mexican restaurant, you're not seeing Margaritas.
Right.
I mean, we're just, the brothers go to Mexico several times a year. They collect, art objects. So the restaurants are tastefully filled with art. They look like galleries. So visually, the restaurants are stunning. And then you've got the energy, with just the fun, festive atmosphere, and then you combine that with food that is really craveable. That's it. I mean, it's basic stuff, but it's different than most all other places. The other competitive advantage we have when it comes to franchising is the 45% liquor, beer, and wine mix. You guys, I'm sure, know there's a lot of money in that. There's a lot of profit in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our cost of goods is low, so our gross profit is very high. We run a 24.8% EBITDA.
Wow.
That's cash flow before rent. And that's way significantly over what other franchisors, are able to do. I heard mentioned when I was listening to your show before I got on, the disclosure, the financial disclosure, mm-hmm. and 70% of all franchisors don't disclose in what's called the Item 19.
Right.
And we do. So, we're proud of our numbers. We feel that we are, clearly one of the best investment opportunities for a franchisee. And at the end of the day, that really is what it's about.
Has there been any pullback because of the economy and how things are right now? Has that hurt the growth, or you're so confident with, with the brand that it's just full steam ahead?
Well, the irony of it is it's worked to our advantage. I mean, last year, for every one restaurant built, 7 went out of business. Mm. So there's an awful lot of inventory out there.
Right.
And we're opening 4 restaurants this year. I mean, 2 are under construction, and 2 the leases are almost completed. And that's a lot for a 19-unit chain.
Right.
So, the reason is that, there's so many opportunities out there. Real estate,
right.
Restaurants that have gone out of business, that it's much more cost-effective to grow now than it was.
Yeah, we've seen that too. Yeah, we've seen that, Bob, a lot. It's talking about some of the opportunities that came about with the recession in 2009. Is there are some killer lease spaces available for opportunities, like yourself.
Well, really
some great deals being made too, for lease space as well. So I think it's really an exciting time to get into something like this.
It is for us. A lot of people are hunkering back.
Mm-hmm.
The big chains, as you I'm sure are aware, have stopped expanding for the time being.
Right.
And that just creates a wonderful opportunity for us.
The
big guys are slowed down or stopped, and yet there's lots of vacant spaces, many of which fit a Margaritas.
That's true. And with the Item 19, I have a feeling you guys are going to attract a lot of accountants and financial types too. To your opportunity when they see those things, because as you said, there's not a lot of franchisors that actually put that information in there. So I think that's a strong testimonial to your franchise as well. So it is interesting.
Yeah, that's always bewildered me that people don't do it, because you're attracting an investor, and if you're not able to disclose what kind of money you're making in your own business,
absolutely,
it creates some doubt. It would create some doubt in me, anyway.
Absolutely.
You mentioned before, Bob, this is the best job you've had. Is it mainly because you're building something, like maybe a little more creativeness than some of the other jobs you've had?
There's that, but I'm really proud of this business. And this may sound a little warm and fuzzy, but culturally, Margaritas is an amazing company. The two brothers, they've grown slowly. They're great people. Our turnover rate is really low in our management staff and our hourly employees. Retention, on the other hand, is very, very high. I mean, I was here for the first few months I was here. I went to the director of HR and I said, Kelly, produce the management turnover report for me. And she looked at me and she said, what?
Wow.
We don't have one. So, our turnover is about 75% lower, actually, than industry average in both management ranks and hourly employees. People love it here.
That's incredible.
And we just do a lot. We do a lot to preserve it, enhance it. It's the strongest culture of any company I know of.
Well, that's a strong endorsement. Yeah, because you work some pretty big names there too, Bob. So it says a lot. That you can say that. What types of characteristics will you guys be looking for in your franchisees? I mentioned you'll be attracting like a lot of accountants and financial types when they see the financial aspects of the business. But is anything about the personality that you guys are going to be looking for?
Well, we're looking for a pretty rarefied group. We're looking for people that have deep pockets. We're only interested in area development agreements of 5 restaurants or more. We're looking for people who have demonstrated success in business, preferably either retail or restaurant.
Okay.
And, those are the 2 keys you got to have to come in the door. The third is, and I heard you guys talking about the fellow that was on previous to me, they've got to fit.
Right.
They've got to be fun. They've got to be good people, sense of humor, ambitious, and we've got to like them.
Right, because it is a partnership.
Yeah,
as
it really is.
Talk about,
it
it's
really
a relationship, and those aspects are very, very important.
Yeah, it's just like hiring a manager. After you interview a manager, if you're not elated and you like that person and you want to work with that person,
right,
you don't hire them.
Yeah, no, it's true, and it's probably even deeper than that, too, because I guess a manager you can fire and a franchisee you kind of have trouble.
Yeah, you kind of can't.
So it does. It makes it a little more difficult at times,
Yeah,
it's something. Bob, we have to take a quick break. Can you stick around for another segment?
Sure.
That's fantastic. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Okay.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com. Franchise Interviews. For over 2 years now, Franchise Interviews has been giving you an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship.
Through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising.
And our weekly franchise radio show, where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisors, franchisees, franchise authors, experts, and attorneys.
And our free franchise newsletter, which is a must-read for anyone looking to buy a franchise.
And don't forget to listen to our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919.
That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Franchise Interviews, where we're asking the Franchipreneur who owns one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, with my co-host, Don Johnson. And if you've ever dreamed of owning your own business, then you've come to the right place. We have a great show today. We're meeting with Bob Hofmeister, President and COO of Margaritas Mexican Restaurant. The Margaritas Mexican Restaurant has been tagged the home of the world's best margaritas. And Don, I think you're up.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about training and how that's going to be, for the future franchisees. I'm sure you're going to have a nice program.
Well, we actually will just put them through our traditional management training program, which is really robust. It's about 10 weeks long. It's pretty much what companies that are established do. Every function, hourly function in the restaurant, all the administrative function. Then they spend a week. The management training, POS training, everything. We take our time with training, and we feel that it's not perfect, but we think that when people emerge from our training program, they really are set up for success.
Yeah, the restaurant business is a little tricky, in that the person who's paying really expects everything to be perfect. The service, the food, you want to maximize that person coming back and to spread the word of mouth. So I guess there's so many little details. You've been in food for many years, and I guess that's part of training, to really have that system in place and the details and
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's why one of the people I brought on board was a really good director of training. He was a director of training for the 99 company for 8 years and for Legal Seafoods for 8 years. He's a pro, and he's even enhanced what I consider to be a really good training program, and he's added to it and made it even better. So training ranks up there with one of the most important things I think about.
Are you going to need? You mentioned as far as new franchisees have to be likable, ambitious, and everything. Is it a requirement they have to have food experience or restaurant experience in some of your new franchisees?
No, because normally the franchisee is going to, he will be the person that has had a lot of success in another business. It could be a restaurant. We would seek for that, but not necessarily. And that person, although they will be, deeply exposed in our training and have to go through it, the people that he or she hires will be, we will co-select them.
Right.
And the company takes a part in that. And so those people will be put through, the rigors of the training process too. But a potential franchisee does not have to be a current franchisee in the food business or operator in the food business. Preferable, though.
Right.
Before Marty talked to you about characteristics, you've just been in the franchising game a while. What other advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur just looking to buy a franchise, Bob?
Well, you own your own business, and when you own your own business, you have to be completely and passionately devoted to it. And not everybody is like that,
Right.
And so you have to have that kind of characteristic, that kind of passion, work ethic. You got to be bright. The restaurant business throws a lot of things at you every day. It's one of the things that makes the industry so much fun too. But it's not like being, I'm not disparaging lawyers, but not like being, going to the office every day and doing kind of the same thing. It's always a little different. I kind of refer to it as showtime. It's like a theater. The curtains come up at 11:30 when you open for lunch, and you're on stage.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. Yeah. What about the location factor, Bob? If you can go a little deeper on that, like what is the ideal location for Margaritas?
We compete. When you start to look at the demographics and psychographics, we have a company that we've partnered with called Buxton that takes our core customer and literally analyzes their density in the Eastern Seaboard. So we know, hypothetically, if you could fly a Margaritas into Philadelphia, we know where we would put it. Now, we may not be able to do that, but we know exactly, the kinds of the markets that we want to be in, the places in the markets that we want to be in by a whole variety of factors: population density, income, traffic, drive time, stuff like that. That kind of thing is very scientific these days. So we've analyzed the Eastern Seaboard. We know the markets that we want to be in. We want to be in Virginia, the Carolinas, Philadelphia, D.C., and we know where in those markets are the best locations. Then it's a matter of finding sites. And as we talked about earlier, those sites are more plentiful these days.
Right. What are your plans for the future, Bob? I mean, like how, the growth has been, as you said, I mean, you guys probably could have started franchising, you said, over a decade ago. How quickly would you like to grow? Are there any plans for that?
Well, we've got pretty heady plans. We're going to do hub and spoke. So we want our first franchisees to be reasonably nearby, so that we can give them support more easily.
Right.
So Massachusetts, the SMA of Boston is enormous. We would carve out sections of that. And we want to stay on the Eastern Seaboard. There's 50 restaurant opportunities in the combination of Virginia and the Carolinas. You sprinkle in D.C. So that's what we want to do. We want to go down the Eastern Seaboard. Potentially, if things are loosening up now, by the way, our pipeline of prospective franchisees is 5 times greater than it was this time last year. So, like a lot of people say, 2010 still hasn't shrugged off all the doldrums yet, but it's really starting to. So the math is, if we signed up, 5 franchisees this year, and they had area development agreements of 10 restaurants in 5 years, there's the math. And the company is on a roll. We have the resources to open more and more. We're opening 4 restaurants this year, and that gives us the ability to open more than that next year because we'll have more people.
For people listening, Bob, people maybe have been in the restaurant business or looking to get into franchising, and the demographics. Is there more of a demand for for Mexican food? Is that the trend? It's nice to be in a niche food service for the most part.
It's a fascinating situation. The Mexican food industry today has the kind of resonance that Italian did in this country 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like when John and David Pelletier started this company, there wasn't a Mexican restaurant in New England, I don't think. And, it has become a favorite cuisine.
Yeah.
And, it's anybody's guess as to why that is, but I personally think it's because people have taken a stronger stand towards quality.
Right.
When you think about
I think I disagree with you on that, Bob. My twins, I have 5-year-old twins. My son Ryan, his favorite food is tacos. So they should look at the 4, 5, 6-year-old. Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, that's right. And my wife and I, we love Mexican food, Bob. We just can't seem to find, in this particular area where we are in Pennsylvania, we just can't find a true Mexican restaurant, So it's just, we're waiting, I don't know what, someone's waiting for to come out to this area, and I guess, it's like you say, demographics and psychographics and all that other stuff. Maybe it's just not a match yet, but
well, you see the proliferation more in the fast casual, fast food sector.
Yeah.
Qdoba and Chipotle. I mean, those guys have gotten pretty big pretty fast.
Yeah, it's true. It's interesting. For our listeners, Bob, what's the best way for them to get more information on becoming a Margaritas Mexican Restaurant franchisee? Is there any websites they can go to?
Just go to the website, Margs, MARGS.com. There's a franchise tab on the website. It has everything you need to know. Who to contact, what you need, resource-wise, everything.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Bob. You've been a fantastic guest, and I'm waiting for you guys to come to Philadelphia.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks so much, Bob. Have a great day.
Thank
and
you,
New
Bob.
Jersey. Right. That's fantastic. It's a great show, huh? How done?
Yeah, what a background he's had with all those companies.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty well-known
strong
names.
Background. These shows are killing me, though. I'm just starving after all the shows.
Yeah.
It's just last 2 weeks have been killers, So,
I have to get my son Ryan in there at some point during the show. It's his favorite food, tacos. I'm going to tell him I mentioned him on the show today. He'll be all happy.
He will. He's going to have to go back and listen to the archives,
Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Franchise Interviews. For over 6 years, Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 6 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with John Pelletier, the founder and CEO of Margaritas Mexican Restaurant. And Margaritas Mexican Restaurant has become an experience warmly embraced by people looking for a place to visit, as well as a place to enjoy delicious Mexican food. And we're going to talk to John about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we got a great show.
Are you one of those special people who are willing to go after your dreams and goals? Are you ready to fulfill that dream of owning your own business with the security of a proven brand? The opportunity to take control of your future and own a Rita's Italian Ice franchise is within your reach.
Rita's is seeking success-oriented individuals who are ready to make a change in their life, and Rita's offers unparalleled training and support to assure your success. And did you know the frozen treat industry is a recession-proof industry, and there are Rita's in 23 states currently with 540 stores open. Rita's Italian Ice has been around for 25 years and is listed as a top-performing franchise by the Wall Street Journal.
Now here's the really good part. Rita's Italian Ice is a unique and amazing taste treat. It's smoother than a snow cone, and it combines ice with real fresh fruit. The real fruit adds dramatically to the taste, and it comes in over 40 flavors. The ice and fruit are mixed on site and made fresh daily, and it is delicious.
You'll want to know more about this exciting and successful franchise opportunity. Go to www.ownaritas.com and get all your questions answered. That's www.ownaritas.com to take control of your dreams and future today. You don't want to wait any longer to be a part of this adventure. www.ownaritas.com.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities, or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 6 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews. And as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with John Pelletier, the founder and CEO of Margaritas Mexican Restaurant. Margaritas Mexican Restaurant has become an experience warmly embraced by people looking for a place to visit, as well as a place to enjoy delicious Mexican food. Hey, John, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Good. Hi, Marty. Thanks a lot for inviting me. How you doing
today? It's our pleasure, John. We always like to ask our guests where you're calling from this morning, John.
I'm calling from Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Oh, nice. It's a beautiful time of year to be in New Hampshire, isn't it?
It's probably been one of the best weeks of maybe the decade.
That's fantastic, yeah. My family used to visit New Hampshire, growing up, and I was called it like a secret place, that a lot of people don't know about, but it really is. It's such a beautiful state. I thought we could start off, maybe you can describe the history of Margaritas Mexican Restaurant, John. There's always seems to be like an interesting story on how a lot of these, franchise opportunities start up.
Sure. It really started with my learning the Mexican concept down from a chain of steakhouses, believe it or not, I was working for in Connecticut back in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
And they had brought back a bunch of recipes from Colorado was probably at the time one of the best, Colorado, Texas, Arizona, California for Mexican. And even today there's, heavy Mexican in Colorado. But anyhow, I learned, a basic concept through the people down in Connecticut, helped them open a couple of Mexican restaurants,
right?
Which was, again, it was 1980. It was 30 years ago.
Okay.
So real basic stuff. So it started there, and then I realized I needed to get, I really needed to evolve Mexican food, like from Mexico, and then I started traveling to Mexico. That's where we developed our concept.
It's I was on the website maybe like a half hour before the show, John, and I have to admit it made me painfully hungry, looking at the food, the guacamole and the salsa and everything like that. It was just, and in this part of Pennsylvania, my wife and I frequently complain that we can never get real Mexican food, So how did you think of that Margaritas Mexican concept then? How did it all occur to you?
It started with a basis of some sauces and some basic recipes, and then we're really the crossover from Mexico, the historical Mexican food, to what's going on in Mexico today,
right.
Flavors, experimentation. But the concept, after traveling to Mexico back in the 80s, I was like, man, I really wanted to bring Mexico back to people without having to get on an airplane.
Yeah.
And that was the basis of all the things we did, starting, all of the changes we made to our concept and involvement of it. And it includes atmosphere. It includes the people, hospitality. It obviously includes, number one, the food. But, the concept developed around the food atmosphere of dropping your bags at the front door, your baggage, coming in and feeling like you're on vacation in Mexico.
Wow. And it sounds like that's what makes Margaritas Mexican Restaurant unique, John. Is there anything else that I guess, stands out from some of the other, I guess you could say, chains that are out there?
Yeah. Well, what stands out, although we have multi-units, we have a lot of different restaurants, and because of the evolvement over the years, they're all different markets, different buildings. They're all really local restaurants. They just are owned and operated under the same parameters of for continuity and consistency and all that stuff. But what sets us apart is that we do serve real, from other chains in general. Is we really do make homemade food. We're a large format restaurant. We're not, we're 200 to 300, sometimes 350 or 400 seats. So we make real food. In the chain industry, it's increasingly easy for chains to, use sodium-infused foods, microwaved foods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we're not doing that, and consequently, the concept isn't the easiest concept to execute, but the product that you eat, it's really good.
It sounds delicious. Here's a trick question for you, John. What's your favorite when you go into the restaurants? Because I know you probably visit a lot of them, of course. What do you look for, or what do you have typically when you go into one?
I think we make the best wet enchiladas in the business.
Really?
Yep, they are. I've eaten them at places that charge $20 for enchiladas, and I've eaten at places that charge $1 for enchiladas between New York, D.C., Mexico, Arizona, California, and I'm telling you, I think, the best wet enchiladas in the business.
That's fantastic.
We do other good stuff too, but when we do our enchiladas, they're not like anybody else.
When I saw you guys, I think it was on Fox. I think it might have even been you, John, that might have done the interview. It was you, okay. Just looking at the food, on that particular clip, it was just, you could almost smell and taste the food, as I was watching that.
Thanks.
Oh my God, it's. I said I can't wait till you guys are, in this particular area. I recently went to a franchise show with my wife, John. We went to the Jacob Javits Center, and she was surprised at all the different concepts there. But it seems like the typical question, when someone comes up to a booth is, so what do you guys do? How do you typically handle the question, when someone asks you?
What we do, let's say, what do you guys do? We operate. What do we do that makes us unique is that for the person that wants to own multi-units of restaurants that are real restaurants, that have real lounges, that have real energy, that aren't cookie cutter, because we're really a small, we have 24 units.
Right.
We don't have 240 units. So for an operator, owner, franchisee that wants something more unique, that fits their personality, that wants to feel really good, more than they're just operating a 5,000 square foot box. And some of these are multi-unit operators who have been exposed to other, in the one case in Pennsylvania with our franchisee, he's had other kinds of franchises, and he still does, and he appreciates having a formula that works.
Right.
Okay, a formula that works, but that feels like a real restaurant.
That's interesting.
Because we do, we have a whole education outreach program. We have all of our, a big employee. And we have a culture, a culture that if they embrace it, is really fun to work in. If you're going to work, and it is a really fun concept to work in. I'm not saying it's not a lot of work.
Right.
That are working there are having a good time, and we're treating them really well.
And I think that's important too, John. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Because we have emphasized that on the show. Over the last 6 years. Is the culture, of course, is very important. And I'm sure that's something that you bring to the table because of course, you're the founder of the company. What do you look for in the franchisees then? As far as like maybe characteristics or experience, I guess it had to be a big decision for you, to take on your first franchisee at some point, and make sure that it was a match. So what do you typically look for today, when you're choosing your franchisees?
The characteristics, there's got to be a passion for the business, passion to follow the rules and make money. There needs to be certain financial and responsibility kind of requirements, and they just have to fit because we're going to be going to be working with the person a long time, and we have a great franchisee in Pennsylvania. We really, he and his partner are professional. They're fun. They're smart. They appreciate people.
Right.
And, so far, and it's been a couple of years, we really like these guys. They like us. And they're making some money. and they're smiling. I mean, they're sending out a lot of smiling guests. I mean, hundreds of thousands at this point,
It's a fun business to be part of, isn't it? Especially, when you have, when you have that culture and you're providing an experience, sometimes I compare it to I said it would be much better to have this type of franchise, than like a transmission franchise where you tell someone that they need a new transmission and, you charge them $2,000,
right.
But the customers are never happy, I mean, this sounds like a fun franchise as you were talking about, of course, being a lot of work. Is there experience necessary? I mean, do you look for that too, John? Do you want them to have that restaurant background?
Yeah,
okay.
Because, anything to do with having employees in today's world requires experience.
True.
No matter what kind of business it is, really.
That's true,
but
yeah.
It's just, our restaurants are not low maintenance restaurants, it's
right.
not, you can't just plug people in and out of the formula.
Sure.
People are what make it, which also makes it a challenge. But the Colby Group that is our franchisee in Pennsylvania, they understand that. So that experience matters a lot. Yeah.
That's great. What is the training like? I mean, once you decide, and it's a match, John. You say, we like them, they like you. How does it work? I mean, do they typically come out to New Hampshire after that, or for training?
Well, we have a training restaurant in Massachusetts, a high volume training restaurant, and they send their key people. It's on a low side of 8 weeks to a high side of 12 or 13 weeks. It's a big commitment. So they train in our facility under an organized training program, and then the training continues. We have support for them months before they open, and really every day after. So it's a big commitment.
That's great. How would you describe a typical day, if there is such a thing, John, for a Margaritas Mexican Restaurant franchisee, and from the moment I guess they go in, and kind of like everything else in between till the end of the day?
Well, I think the life of the franchisee is pretty much the same as the life of any of our restaurants, because they operate, within certain parameters identically.
Right.
The franchisee himself, he may. Craig doesn't go and operate that restaurant every day. He has management in there.
Right.
But for the management, they come in, they get the place opened up, they get their prep people in, they make their prep lists. Everything's prepped fresh, so every day is kind of a new beginning. There might be some things that are carried over from the previous day, but those are all, there's only certain items that are.
Right.
And they, they set up their lines because everything is made to order. And they fire the place up at 11 o'clock. And throughout the day, they do lunch, and then, our big meal is dinner in most of the restaurants.
Okay.
And our lounges. I mean, our lounges are, really happen in places. In most of the towns we're in, we are, a formidable, we are, the place to go in a lot of places for fun, for meeting people and, getting together with your family. So it's going to happen in place. A lot of action.
That's great. What do you look for in a location, John? I mean, I was saying, as location, is it typical rules for a restaurant? Of course, location. But I mean, what do you typically look for, before you, kind of say this is a good location for Margaritas? Yeah,
Margaritas is a destination location in most cases.
Yeah.
We need parking. We need a facility that we can renovate to fit our lines. Our cooking lines are not simple. They're kind of complicated.
Yeah.
And so it has to fit. It has to fit the mechanicals, and then we can adapt and decorate and make any place cool, I think, and funky. So that isn't the biggest piece. But location, back in the 80s, we took a lot of C or B locations because that's what we could afford to get. Today we're able to get better locations, but in general, a destination location And people, in most cases, people aim to come to Margaritas. It's just not like, well, I'm at the mall and here's a place.
Right, exactly.
Fine, and all the restaurants I'm talking about. And I'm not
sure
bad. They're very convenient.
Exactly.
Most franchise restaurants are for convenience.
Right.
I'm not to say that some of them aren't good, but our restaurants, people more aim to go to a Margaritas versus fall upon it.
That's fantastic. You being an entrepreneur, it's true. You being an entrepreneur, John, a lot of our listeners, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. Most of them have it in their mind that they want to go into franchising. We find that a lot of them have difficulty. They don't know where to begin sometimes because it seems like there's just so much out there today, So what would you say to them as an entrepreneur, as far as giving them advice on how and where to even begin their search?
Yeah. Well, I think they have to first ask themselves how hard they really want to work.
Mm-hmm. True.
Certain concepts are easier than others.
That's true.
And there are certain concepts that are easy that can throw off a lot of income.
True.
Location, because of the vast numbers of sheer types of franchises and locations, et cetera, that are out there. But they really have to ask themselves, how hard they want to work, how much money they want to invest. If it's a complicated or a more complicated system versus a very simple, like we put out, somebody puts out, I can't, if all you cook is bread, let's just say, right?
True.
And that's the sort of complication you're up for. Well, that's going to be fairly easy to employ people. You're going to find people on that level. Now, if you want something a little more interesting, and you have a team, I think the most important thing is who's the team behind you. And that will determine how complicated or how much of a fun concept you can do. If it's just yourself without much of a support group or a fun, energetic group behind you, you should temper it to what your personality is. That's a big one. Why fit around, square peg in a round hole?
Sure.
So look at your own personality, look at your own finances, look at what your time commitment is and how your family is going to accept it, and see who are your support pillars around you.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful response, John. We're going to have to put that in our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast. I like how you mentioned that, personality. Yes, it's true that there are simpler concepts out there, but, would you get bored with that after a while? But you have to ask yourself, So it is. It's a very interesting response. I like that. So being that, you're the founder and the CEO of the company, I can ask you, what are the plans for the future for Margaritas Mexican Restaurant? Hey, that was the question, like, how big would you like to get? But, maybe where do you see the company, 3 to 5 years down the road?
Well, interestingly enough, I guess I just partly answered one of my own questions, is that how big does it want to get? I want to get the thing as big and as famous and as fun and as touching many people as my people want to bring it.
Right. Interesting.
That's pretty broad because I can't do it anymore. I'm not saying it's not one person. It's a living, breathing machine of people and places. So we're, to be more specific, our main priority that we are completely committed to is to develop the Pennsylvania region that the Colby Group has taken and make them as successful as possible, help them to be as successful as possible.
That's great. I'm glad you said that. My wife's going to be glad you said that too, John. Not to cut you off, but I know you're in Langhorne and Lansdale, and we're hoping that you come a little closer to this part. We're in Easton, Williams Township, Pennsylvania, right on the Delaware River. And that usually happens a lot of times is once you have, 2 or 3 units in a particular state, it kind of like mushrooms,
Right.
So we can't wait for you to
get
here.
They've got Wilmington slated and Collegeville.
Okay.
Slated. So Wilmington, they're going to be on the river.
Getting closer.
Getting closer. Yeah. Well,
definitely a driving range. We always say we can always go.
But really developing the, down that region of the East, through D.C. would be would be our goal, and they're looking at it as well. And as far as company restaurants go, we'll probably, it's already almost 2014. It'll probably be 2015 before we'd open any more new ones. One of the reasons is if the schedule for our franchisees comes through. I mean, just this year we opened, in the last 12 months, we've opened 2 restaurants. And, we're not the kind of chain that can open 10, 15 restaurants a year at this point.
Right, at this point, right.
Yeah.
That's
so
interesting.
I'd love to see us have about 25 to 30 company restaurants and 30 to 40 franchise restaurants. I think that'd be a nice size that would be manageable and keep it fun and still be able to keep it real for Mexico.
That's fantastic. What's the best way for our listeners to get more information, John? Is there any particular websites that you'd like them to go to?
We have our website, but we can pick up the telephone and, there's a number, you call one of our guys.
That's fantastic. You can give that number.
It's not like we're accessible people. And it's people to people,
That's fantastic. What's that number, too? You can plug that, too, if you want to. I have the 603-430-8905. Is that correct?
Yep, and then dial 0 for the operator and ask to talk to Tom Radomski. He heads up all the franchise. He's been with me over 20 years. He's opened restaurants, cooked them, washed dishes, franchised them. He's gone through all the certified franchise training that was necessary. And a real person, and he will be glad to talk with you.
That's great. Well, it was a pleasure to finally have you on the show, John. And again, I'm anxiously and patiently waiting for you to come to this area, and I can't wait to try you guys out. And I'd really like to invite you back next year as you continue to grow.
I'll keep you posted, amigo.
Thanks so much, John. You have a great day.
Thanks a lot, Marty.
Thank you. We'll be right back with more franchise interviews.
Adios.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.